Hi everyone. Once again, welcome to all of you to our HR Success Talk video library, which is a YouTube channel where we actually invite a lot of HR professionals to talk about various topics in HR. And today, in the same series, we have invited Mr. Shamik Bora, who is the founder and the CEO of HR Fidelity Consulting Services. And Mr. Vivara, thank you very much for coming and giving your time here.
Oh, thank you so much, Govind. It's a pleasure to be with you.
This is us, sir. For our audience, if you don't mind, can you just give a little bit more about yourself so that we can connect better with you?
Yeah. Uh, in the world of startup, we are a pretty late entrant in the sense that I myself am a late entrant in the game of startup. Um, and this startup is called HR Fidelity Consulting. So we set up an HR portal called DIYHR.in. Now, why DIY HR was, um, I before I conceptualized this idea, I worked for different SME owner driven companies where I found that not adequate HR support is usually available. Neither do they have access to HR information which is qualified enough to make decisions about the HR practices. Having realized this problem, I thought of coming up with a solution wherein even if these companies do not have the qualified HR, they should still be able to function. And yeah, so it is more about putting 15 years of experience into HR in bringing about a product which can really help HR for the SMEs. So uh, that is the kind of background that I carry. So before I worked for 15 years into different verticals like IT, retail, pharma, jewelry. I used to work for the Air Force for 20 years. So it's like total of 20 years into Air Force, followed by 15 years into HR, and this is a kind of gist that I'm bringing over by way of DIY HR. So that is long and short of my current status.
Thank you very much, sir, for letting all know about yourself and the kind of experience you have with you. As you know, we are going to talk about learning and development today. And one of the question which I think most of the HR budgets, face problem is in terms of how the learning and development as a part of it. So we thought you'll be the right person to talk about it. So we want to know why corporates should spend money on learning and development in first instance.
This is very interesting topic and question. Um, my experience is that nobody doubts the need of having or doing enough of learning and organizational development activity. I don't think anybody has a doubt because all of them know what are the benefits of doing it. I think uh, what I found is that there are certain hesitations. So on one hand, the benefits talks about growing talent internally, no lateral hiring. There is adequate cultural protection that happens. The cost is low. Everything given. Yet I see there is a lot of hesitation coming from the business side about spending money on learning and development. And there is this saying goes, when HR proposes training, they say, "What if an employee leaves?" I mean, that is one of the first questions uh, that business owner or the CEO ends up asking. And when HR responds, telling, "What if you don't train and they stay?" Now, while the answer is pretty logical, I see that these people are worried about the other factors. And these other factors are, sometimes the hygiene in many of the companies is not good enough, where they know that even if you train, there are other factors which might push these employees away, and hence the attrition will continue. So it is like putting good money behind bad. And I think that is what is holding quite a few corporates from spending enough on L&OD. So while this is one reason, the other reason I also see a conflict in terms of, uh, while L&OD is a strategic uh, approach to organization, whereas business has quite a few tactical here and now requirement, and they see that yes, it is something where if we focus on to strategy, maybe my immediate goals I may not achieve, or I have a limited budget and I'm spending in a direction which may not give me result what I need now. So
Mhm.
I see these are the blockages in the learning and development.
All right. I think one of the input which you have given is that the management of organization is always worried about the kind of investment they are putting on learning and development, and whether they will be getting the same kind of return from it or not. And I think most of the HR professionals has to go through it. Uh, as we don't doubt that the learning and development is going to help a lot to our people. Uh, do you see when HR professionals are making their own budgets, uh, they should put L&D as one of the important part of it? And if so, what should be that share which they should keep it in there? What percentage of the budget they should keep it as L&D? Is there any landmark for this, or they can change it depending upon their requirement and what kind of company they are, etc.?
Um, Again, if in fact, I have not really carried out any kind of study or research on the subject, but again, coming more from the experience and the nature that I've seen, um, there are quite a few things that depends on the nature of industry and the level of work. So, especially in case of manufacturing, where low end has very generic kind of, say, health and safety kind of training, or some sort of behavioral training. So the number of topics which happens at the low end are limited. So that means number of training days required over a period of year, if I would say, it is not more than about 6 days a year. That is the kind of thing which happens at the bottom end. Uh, and it goes right up to about anywhere about 12 to 15 days a year, as the hierarchy moves up. That is a kind of training one would look at. So if that being the training, the budget is going to be derived out of how many training man days required, and then arriving at the budget. So budget varies as per industry. So say for example, service industry will need lot more training compared to manufacturing industry. And I see effectively about 2% of the total HR budget. When I say HR budget, I mean the salary side of it. So whatever is the compensation budget, about 2% is something that gets into the training side of it.
All right. And you also mentioned that the manufacturing industry has to spend more on training as compared to service. Is it?
No, the other way around. In fact, services needs more than because manufacturing has a lot of routine activity. So unless the manufacturing process changes, there is no training involved at the mid and junior level. So senior level, yes, sometimes they do get into leadership training, training about the employment laws, about yeah, accounting practices, etc. This might happen, but mid and junior is very limited in case of manufacturing.
All right, that's great insight, sir. And I hope that with those views, our audience will be able to drive some outcome, why these trainings are important. But at the same time, do you see that management nowadays understands the importance of these training programs? Because as you mentioned earlier, that they always have apprehension about ROI of those training and what if the employee leaves. So how you think that are they understanding it? And if not, what can be done to present them this information and the data about the effectiveness of L&D in organization?
This is I see a very interesting development happening in this space, and this is like um, y- the first generation um, entrepreneur whose second generation has now joined them. So this new generation who is looking for a growth certainly feels need of this L&OD activity, so learning activity, because essentially everyone has started realizing that unless something like this happens, the growth is going to be limited. So this second generation entrepreneurs, I see a lot of startups having very clear idea as to, yes, we need constantly skill changes, etc. So there they are also focusing on to learning and development. IT was always on the forefront because of the fast nature of fast pace at which the technology changes. So these are some of the drivers. And since the technology adoption has increased overall in the industry, I see a lot of training, I mean, sensitivity to having a training in spite of all the apprehensions is, yes, that we need training. So I see a good, definitely good prospect for the L&OD professionals per se.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us, and I hope that my audience will get benefited out of it. I'm sure that you have actually kind enough to find some time for us today, and hope my audience will be quite delighted to have you again and again here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Govind.